Guy does everything. Please welcome Jean-Baptiste.
So I'm going to do two small presentations because those are short talks and I didn't want to take too much time today. So we're going to speak about FFmpeg and mostly FFmpeg 6.0, and then I will speak about a new project called VLC.js, but it's a lie, it's not really VLC.js. So who am I? My name is Jean-Baptiste. Some of you know me, some don't. So I'm president of Videoland. I've been working on VLC for, okay, I'm close to 40, so 17 years. I've been involved in X264, which is a Videoland project, David, which is a AV1 decoder, and lately a bit on FFmpeg, mostly on the community management, which is a funny topic. I shouldn't be the one presenting this presentation, but the people who should do this presentation are maybe in this room and don't want to present, so that's why I'm presenting. Jokes aside, like if you look at the FOSDEM open media room, like there is almost no FFmpeg talk, which is completely insane. This year is better thanks to Kiran and to Remy, but it's ridiculous. Like if you look also in the archives, I look in the archives, there is almost no FFmpeg, general FFmpeg talk. Well, everything in the multimedia in the open source world and outside of the open source world is actually based on FFmpeg. And when I mean everything you see online. And most of those, like you go to those big trade shows and they're all amazing cloud encoding and so on. And it's just like a very nice wrapper to FFmpeg. And of course, when I say FFmpeg, please understand, this is FFmpeg plus libx264 plus libx65 plus libvpx plus David plus all the other xvid, all the libraries that I forget. So, and like even on our Voici or Mademoiselle, like you know those French fashion thing that we have, which is called Hacker News. Even on Hacker News, like when there is a release of FFmpeg, it's not even the top Hacker News, right? So that means that we are doing something wrong, which means we don't communicate enough on FFmpeg. So here I am. So the community is healthy. We've had some fights in the past, to be honest. The folks are long gone, and most of the people working now on FFmpeg are also lots of new people who were not there at the fork time, but also people from both forks are still working on FFmpeg. That's pretty cool, especially since we've not seen that many open source community being able to work together after those type of events. So here I'm just going to speak just quickly about FFmpeg 5.0, which was around almost exactly 1 year ago. It was very important because we tried to match the new release schedules that I'm going to talk about, but it's also like was probably the biggest API breakage ever on FFmpeg. I think just the train of commits removing deprecation symbols was around 130 commits, and like the diff was huge. So some APIs were there deprecated in 2013 and were removed in 5.0, right? So this is probably going to impact a lot of you because a lot of distributions are still on 4.4, but 5.0 is a big change of APIs. And mostly there is one big thing is that it's one API to decode both audio and video and not AV codec, video decode 4, 5, 6, and so on, right? You know, all those APIs. It's not doing subtitles yet, but I was promised that someone will do it this year. Where is Anton? Yeah. And yeah, we did lots of new things. AV frame-based API in SW scale, new bit fields, streaming filters, a lot of things to clean AV format in AV codec, disentangling those two libraries, working on the decoder context, etc. You should look at the release notes on that. There are some people who are doing amazing work, mostly Andreas and James, who are basically removing all the craft on FFmpeg. So one day the whole FFmpeg will be thread safe. Right? We believe that, right? And AV codec, any AV format will be completely split. Yeah, okay, maybe not. But there is a lot of work to be done, and that's very important for security reasons. Michael, who's still probably the oldest FFmpeg contributor, is still like fuzzing FFmpeg every day. Slice thread setting is W-scale, IMF demuxing, which is good because so many professionals are using IMF format, and they usually do weird things on FFmpeg or above FFmpeg, and then we have to deal with their shit because it's wrongly muxed. So now we're actually getting that directly into FFmpeg. Dolby Vision, I'm not sure exactly which part of Dolby Vision, because there is, as many of you know, 5 or 6 profiles, but I think at least profile 5 were there. And of course, a lot of things, and one of the cool things was the integration of Lee Placebo, which used to be the MPV video filtering framework, mostly GPU accelerated, that is now into FFmpeg. And you can use that without GPU easily with emulation. So the old APIs, like you know the old APIs. And now we're really, what's interesting is that it's more async based, and so you don't need to do those horrible waits. 5.1, so that was like 6 months ago, in July. This one is important for you because it's an LTS. 5.0 is not LTS, so we're going to try to make that, to fix at least the security bugs for a couple of years. And like most of the things that were added were a lot of features, but one of the major API that was merged was the change of the audio channel layout API, which was supposed to come in 5.0, but we missed, and then we said, well, it's going to take too much time, so that we did that with 5.1. A lot of optimization on ARM in that release, mostly on HEVC decoding, a lot of things on AV1 decoding in hardware, because there is still 25 different APIs to do hardware acceleration. But soon there will be a new one that is going to replace all of them, which is Vulkan video decoding, and we'll have 14 standards. JPEG XL decoding, and a lot of things on SVT-AV1, right? So yeah, the channel layout API was developed 2013, I think, by Vittorio. I'm not sure he's around. Yeah, Vittorio. That was done during the fork, and it, well, was quite complex. But this is good because it's ready to do what we called, well, what marketing calls NGA, which is next generation audio. What marketing also calls Dolby Atmos, right? Those kind of object-based audio, and like the new channel layout API allows to be a lot more flexible, do custom layouts and weird things without us having to do everything directly inside FFmpeg. So, and I'm still not starting about my main topic, which is FFmpeg 6.0. I hope when I was submitting the code that this would have been tagged, and that's important. I think this is even bigger in terms of number of commits, and mostly in terms of contributors, because in the last 6 months, there have been around 191 contributors. That's huge, and that's a lot bigger than the previous release. What is important? There is not that many important API breakage and changes, but there is new APIs, and also it's a major bump, so we are going to remove more things that were deprecated in the last few years, and that was like 2 new APIs, so that we didn't remove them in 5.0, but we're going to remove that soon. Soon. One of the major changes, one of the most difficult things that we've seen is multi-threading the FFmpeg CLI, right? So all those big guys at YouTube and Vimeo and Facebook and all those providers of FFmpeg nice UIs are basically, one of the things they complain about is the lack of multi-threading on FFmpeg. So they invent a lot of weird frameworks to do that. So there is a lot of work to do that directly inside FFmpeg. It's going to go on for the whole year, I think, for all 2023. But that means that a lot of things will be better for you to use. And of course, when you do that, you need to actually care about thread safety, right? And cleanups. So that's a lot of cleanups. What was done for 5.0 was that the muxes are now in their own threads. There will be more things. There is now a RISC-V optimization, or at least the framework to do that inside FFmpeg. One of the things that is important is that you've probably seen that all the big guys building GPUs have now shipped AV1 encoders. So in 6.0, we got Intel and NVIDIA and AMD. So you can actually encode AV1 in hardware. And that's actually very fast, right? You can reach 30 FPS in 1080p without any problem with those cards. And it's actually decent quality, right? It's not as good as SVT-AV1, of course, but it's pretty good. There was a lot of work on the FFT code by Lynn. She's over there. She can tell you about that. And like I think it's like, I don't know how much faster it is, but it's a lot faster. So all the audio codecs and all the audio filters that requires use the FFT, and sometimes is better than the external FFT libraries that everyone is using. New API for reconstructed frame for encoders, ABI breakage for deprecation. We have, of course, what I hate, lots of new YUV format and pixel format, because there is always a good reasons to add them. And when I'm downstream as VLC, I hate that, but anyway. Lots of things on channel layouts and H.274, mostly about like external filters. One of the big parts on those features is everything related to hardware. So I said about AV1 hardware decoding, a lot of pixel formats, especially for hardware. There is finally the Android media codec using directly NDK and not with the Java crap that is directly integrated into FFmpeg. I think that requires API Android 23, but I'm not exactly sure. And we also have the encoding and not just the decoding, but also based on media codec. We have the Intel folks have done a lot of things to have a 10-bit, 12-bit, 422.444 VP9 decoding directly inside FFmpeg. That's one of the reasons why we have new pixel formats. In terms of actual features, there is, of course, lots of new codecs, lots of new filters. The ones I prefer are the FTR, which is an annoying company who doesn't want us to reverse engineer that. Bonk, APAC, there is a SIM SSIM 360 filter and some very cool bitstream filter too for the DTS to PTS one. Look at that one, it's really quite useful. Yeah, so FFmpeg CLI multithreading, as I said, this is partly done in 6.0. It will be continued on 6.1 and 7.0. It is difficult and it's long. But this is going to improve all your lives, or at least, especially if you want to do HLS, multiple transcode, multiple resolution, and do that directly without using third parties. FFmpeg releases. This is a slide I took exactly from a previous talk, and we never talked about that during FOSDEM, so that's why I'm talking about it. The problem that was like FFmpeg releases were kind of, well, before there was not, right? So we all took the good SHA one and hope it was great, and then we were seeing what mPlay was doing, then VLC was copying, and well, if mPlay and VLC agreed, then everyone was using that. Then we started having releases and done by Michael, and sometimes they were not very predictable. So one of the ideas is to start to come to a more predictable fashion, which is one major API break and ABI break every year around December, January, so we're in February and we fucked this year. But that's the idea, right? So one major where we allow API and ABI breakage, right? We remove APIs. When it's deprecated, it must be there for 2 years before we move that. But like we will bump the SO numbers, right? And then 1 or 2 releases during the year, depending on security and what we need. So 5.0, 5.1. And every 2 years, one of the .1 will be LTS, and we'll continue that for 2 or 3 years. So the plan was to do FFmpeg 6.0 in January. I hope it's going to come next week. We'll see. Yeah, this was not on schedule, so I'm adding a shorter talk in the middle of my 2 talks. David 1.0 was released last year. It is insane. 200,000 lines of handwritten assembly. That's like, I don't think there is any open source project that has that. I'm not sure there is even a non-open source project that has that much assembly. And yes, handwritten assembly is faster than using whatever version of whatever compiler and activating whatever amazing feature that is going to auto-vectorize something. We still do 5, 8, 16 times faster than C, so don't bring that up. It is insane, yet it's necessary, right? So when you decode AV1, so AV1 is now in all your iOS devices, all your Android devices, all your applications that decode AV1. It's on macOS, it's on Windows, it's of course in Chrome, it's of course in VLC, MPV, and all the other things. So it's literally everywhere. A lot of work was done in the David 1.0 about frame threading. Like there is lots of, please see the talks from Ronaldo for a few years ago. Wow, okay, good. About the different threading models that are inside David, and David 1.0 has everything in a simpler way. We are going to, it's extremely fast, very fast. David 1.0, 1.1 releases is coming soonish. A lot of fixing, especially because there were a lot of conformance tests that we were not passing, and for some reason they got out. And there is, of course, lots of new assembly, especially for AVX512 and Neon. Cool. We're going to speak about, well, I'm going to do a demo, which is VLC.js, which is actually not in JS. So what are we talking about? Yeah. So this is Chrome, and this is why I'm on Mac OS and not my usual Linux, for the people who wonder. This is VLC and FFmpeg and all the dependency compiled to WebAssembly. And what you cannot see, but this is doing hardware decoding through web codecs, right? So what happens here is that what you're seeing is that it's actually decoded on the hardware through web codecs, and then you take the output frame directly into WebGL, and well, OpenGL ES2, which is compiled to WebGL, and display that. And this is a 4K H.264 MP4, blah, blah, blah. Ah. Okay, that's boring, JB. I can do 4K H.264 everywhere. Sure you can. So let's do something a bit more complex. So this is the same, probably a DivX, except it's MKV. The MKV part is done in WASM, right? It's a normal VLC demuxer. There is no JavaScript involved, right? I'm not demuxing MKV and remuxing as MP4 like HLS.js. It has, of course, chapters support because, well, what's the use of that? But also, if I found my mouse again, no, where is it? Yeah, you have also chapter subtitles, which are not WebVTT, right? Normal DVB subtitles. Okay, so that's not too amazing, right? So let's do something more complex. Okay, 4K VP9 in software decoding directly inside the web browser. Okay, that's pretty much better, right? WebM on macOS, right? So, well, yeah, but professional, they use like actual format, like MPEG-TS. Let's do, so that's something that is ATSC over the air, right? So that's HEVC, AV3, TS, right? All the stack that is not in the web browser, it's decoded and displayed directly into your web browser. And that's where you realize that the US TV is really dumb. Okay, okay, so that was hardware accelerated or not, because that was HEVC. As you can guess, right, I can either force web codec or AV codec. So now I'm going to force software decoding. And I'm going to show you something a bit more complex, which is, this is Korean TV, which is interlaced. And the deinterlacing is happening as a WebGL shader directly inside your web browser, right? So we're decoding H.264 interlace. Of course, we cannot do that by hardware because, of course, the API does not support interlace codec. So we decode full in software, and then we display directly and do sharpening and deinterlacing of those very old multicast formats without any change. Okay, and I guess I got 1 minute more. So this is DNxHD. Of course, the output is not 420, but it's 422, and that's actually interlaced and decoded as MXF directly. All those professional formats, you play that directly inside the web browser. So, of course, if we can do 422 and downsampling 422 for 420 in software, well, on the GPU, I can also do 444. So this is YUV 444 10-bit, right? Of course, BBB, right? But things that, well, are absolutely not possible with any type of APIs. I probably also can show you that we can do other filters, and this is a 360 movie that we have with the support on VLC, and of course all the mapping and the from tetrahedral to equirectangular is done on the GPU. Of course, that means that we are everything that we do with Placebo in theory should get in, and I'm out of time. Thank you.
Do we have any question from the room? Yeah?
So, naive question. So you said you have 200,000 lines of specialized code. So perhaps there is no slowdown when you flip or rotate the image or do such transforms, because you have a specialized version for that. Is it so?
You mean on David? Or here?
Oh, sorry, I cannot differentiate.
So on David, like it's really the decoding part, right? David is 200,000 lines of assembly just to do the decoding. It's around 35,000 lines per architecture, and we do lots of architectures. Then they give you like a decoding surface, and then we use it in VLC, PV, FFmpeg, and we do things. And here we would compile it directly inside WebAssembly, run that in the web browser, and all the transformations are done then on WebGL. So that doesn't change anything.
Just wanted to know whether there is a slowdown of any
amount
just because of those common transforms, you say?
No, there shouldn't be.
Another question? Yeah.
Can you compile assembly to WebAssembly? Like, could you compile David in the WebAssembly, or do you handwrite all the WebAssembly assembly?
So one of the things that we tried with Lin, again, was what we call an assembly transpiler, where you take actually the ARM handwritten assembly and try to transpile that to webassembly.scmd, right? So that you could use Neon and do exactly the opposite of what the web browser are actually doing, where they take the WASM assembly and compile that just in time for Neon and so on. It's a very insane project that I had the idea a few years ago. It's really not sure whether we are going to be able to do that, because like you're transpiling assembly, like what the fuck are you talking about? But yes, I think that's the right solution instead of rewriting again all the assembly from FFmpeg and David again. If you have time, please come and help us. I might actually find also some money for that if people care.